Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom from iScrap. Today is the 10th of August, Wednesday the 10th, and here we are. We're in August. I mean, what's going on with the markets? Well, we have these weekly reports, and of course, you can always check out the app. We've had a couple of people asking us why their locations weren't working on the app, and it's important to remember that you need to allow the feature inside of your phone in the settings to locate you while you're in the app. That's why privacy settings are out there. So if you want to be private, you can be. But if you want to learn about yards that are right around you, you need to be able to go into the app, go to your iScraps, go to where the iScrap app actually is. There's a setting just says allow while using or allow always, whatever it is that you want to do. But that might be an easy fix for you to be able to find the scrap yards that are in your area. So, the last week or so, there's been a lot going on. We have this new IR, whatever new stupid billions of dollars that the coming out of DC is going to be spending on clean energy and different IRS agents. So we'll see how that's going to be kind of affecting things in the coming weeks. We'll be doing a couple of podcasts with Mark, who we've spotlighted before and who we spotlight every week in our weekly reports, talking about energy, talking about oil prices, diesel prices, clean energy, how they're affecting the scrap industry. So we're going to be doing a podcast where we sit down and we do a 3-part series talking about the clean green energy movement. And I read almost everyone's comments on YouTube a couple times a week. I'll log in, I'll see what people say. And it's really interesting because a lot of people think that this is kind of a bunch of BS, why the clean energy, the clean energy that's moving forward. And I'm not going to give you my complete opinion on it right now, but what I do know is whether you like it or you don't like it, it's happening. It's consuming a lot of commodities, and it's going to need to consume more commodities moving forward. So what does that mean? That means that scrap is going to continue to stay relevant. There's going to be a whole new industry, this clean green energy industry, where scrap is going to be getting used inside of. So, whether you like it or not, there is going to be a use for the metal. So it's going to continue to keep the metal prices up. But what I wanted to focus on this week was kind of more of a scrapper-centric point of view. I'll go over some prices. We'll go over some cat stuff. But we had a comment last week from someone, and they were just saying, hey, I like what you're doing, and I like this, and I'd like to make a suggestion. Sometimes you might get a little sidetracked with defending scrapyard prices, which is understandable, but I'd like to request you spend a little more time on market predictions and kind of going from there. So I thought that was a really good request and a really good comment, and I love everyone's comment, whether you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere else, because if I don't know what you're thinking, then I don't know how to react and kind of cater the information. So when I got this comment a couple of weeks ago, I read it, and I started to just go down into the scrapyard more often and talking to the scrappers that are bringing us scrap at the door. And that's kind of how I wrote my section of the report this week, interviewing scrappers and just really kind of having conversations with customers of mine for anywhere from 5 to 15 years that I've had. There were a couple of new people that I interviewed, and interviewing was just talking, just asking how they like the process, how they like the system. And there are a bunch of things that I've learned in the last week and a half or so that I'd like to really impart on you. And first, we'll talk about prices. And one of the reasons that people said that they enjoy coming to Rockaway Recycling is because we post our prices online. Now, earlier today, I commented on a YouTuber's question saying, where can I find some prices? And the iScrap app has national price averages, which are updated every single day. So that gives you the ability, if your scrapyard does not post, to at least find what some of the prices are nationally. Now, we've also had comments where those prices are much lower than prices that you may get at your scrapyard, and that's really good. We've also had them where they're higher, and that's why averages exist, to take the high, the low, to add them together, come up with something in the middle, and give you a baseline of where the markets may be. So this week, when I look at some of the prices, some of the recommendations that I have, and you don't have to agree with them, that's why they're recommendations. I think stainless steel is one of the biggest items you should be holding. The nickel market got hit down so much in the last 3 months, where we saw 304 stainless go from, let's say, 75 cents down to 35 cents, that I think the upswing of it is going to be a really positive one. And I think that as sanctions and the Ukrainian conflict continue to exist, because so much nickel was coming out of Russia, at some point we're going to see, a little bit of a short-sided demand. But here's something to keep in mind when people just think, oh, war means we need metals. The Chinese have not sanctioned the Russians, which means the Chinese continue to buy metal, oil, and gas from the Russians. By buying oil, metal, and gas from the Russians, they're continuing to make more products and sell them to guess who? America and many other countries. So it's really funny how things kind of shape themselves around, but the nickel prices have been affected. But we might see an upswing if we start to see more conflicts coming, which could be in the future. Hopefully they're not. We don't want conflicts. We want calm and peace. But that's one of the items, stainless steel, that we do recommend continuing to hold. Now, steel, we thought we were going to see a downturn in the steel markets this month. We thought that steel prices were going to go down another 15, 20 bucks a ton. And when the prices were published yesterday, son of a gun, we saw the opposite. We saw an uptick, about $10 to $20 per ton. Is it a lot? No, but it's not negative and it's not zero movement. And that's a positive sign, because the summer is generally slower. And as we've seen these steel prices have humongous pullbacks in the last few months, any sign of life going into September and into the fall is going to be a really good thing to see. And hopefully we'll continue to see those prices moving upward. Now, I continue to push that light iron and sheet iron or shred material should get sold once it's in your truck, unless you're taking an air conditioner apart and you're creating the light iron from that process of getting it on ferrous. Those light iron items are never things that you should hold for too long. You end up spending too much time on them. So that's part of the reasoning on why I recommend continuing to sell steel, just because the handling versus a return, you might end up losing money just based on your time. Aluminum, we did start to see an uptick on the aluminum side of things in July. We did then start to see a reversal, and we've seen a little bit of a downturn on aluminum, closer to where it was in the beginning of July. So those markets are, relatively calm. But one of the things that we were talking, when I was talking to some of the customers here at Rockaway Recycling, we talked about what you like, what you don't like. So people like prices. But another thing that scrappers seem to really like about Rockaway Recycling is the transparency and the knowledge. And one thing that I've read a lot about on YouTube comments is how some scrapyards kind of give it's our way or the highway, and we're not going to explain to you why. And that's something that would upset me as a customer, because if you're not going to try to work with me, then how do I know that we're going to be able to work long-term together on other projects or buying scrap or whatever? So finding scrapyards that teach you some of the things that we talk about through our YouTube channel is going to be really valuable. And the ones that don't want to give you any information or help you at all, those are the ones that you might want to kind of toss to the curb or only use for certain items. Now, another interesting conversation I had with a customer, and I just said to him, I go, are we the only scrapyard you go to? And he said, no, you're not the only scrapyard I go to. I go to 3 different scrapyards, and each of you do something really well, and that's why we go there. I've tried and experimented with other ones for different items, but he said he loves our process for buying copper and insulated wire. It's easy, it's up front, the scales, the indicators are in front of him. So he really liked us for that. When it came to steel, he moves dumpsters full of steel, and he doesn't like that our facility didn't have as much processing or as aggressive steel prices as some other yards in the area do. And I knew that those all were true things, but hearing it from him just made it where you have options. And I think that sometimes when you kind of get stuck in a little box, you don't look outside that box. And I know that a lot of you may live in rural parts of America that don't have many scrap yards. And I get that struggle. I've been out to those parts. I went to Georgia a few years ago to do a job, and I tried to stop at a couple of scrap yards on my way just to introduce myself, Tom from iScrap. And I couldn't find some of the yards. They were out in the middle of nowhere. I remember a scrap yard being located in an old horse barn where their aluminum cans were stored in a stable that just had dirt on the floor. So I get that there are very rural parts of America that don't have multiple options that we may have here on the East Coast or metropolitan areas. But that doesn't mean that you don't actually have options, because by learning about the scrap, by saving materials, and even reaching outside of your immediate area by using the iScrap app, you might be able to learn something. And if your scrapyard that you use in your rural or busy metropolitan areas are not listed, let us know. There's a tab right inside of the app that gives you the ability to let us know what yards are out there, so we can contact them and hopefully get them up and running and get some more prices flowing to you. So these are all little tools that you might just want to stop and recalibrate yourself and figure out what's worth it. Also, hey, my company, Rockaway Recycling, we buy scrap through the mail across the country, where we have people sending us flat rate boxes full of copper because their scrap yards are paying $1 a pound less. We have customers from Alaska, Hawaii. They send us scrap through the mail because they know that our prices are good. They can lock in a flat rate for a box. They pay for the shipping and they make more money. Again, it's not the easiest thing to do if you have 1,000 pounds of copper, but if you're looking to do it by little chunks at a time, it's just another option to keep in mind. So what else are we having in the markets? When we get back from this short commercial, we're going to talk about some of the things that are happening in the catalytic converter side of things. This way you know what's going on with those markets. So when we get back from that, we'll talk about some of the PGM prices and where I think the catalytic converter prices are going into August and then September. When taking pictures of your catalytic converters, there are multiple things that you want to do. Make sure while handling the catalytic converters that you're wearing gloves. But when you're taking pictures of the catalytic converters, make sure that you have a clear background underneath the cats. By taking pictures from the top down, you'll be able to send those and then flip the cat over and send both sets of pictures to the team at rrcats.com. If there are serial numbers on the catalytic converters, please take pictures of those serial numbers for quicker and more accurate quoting. If the serial number has rust on it, use a little steel wool, rub the rust off, and then take a picture of the serial number. There could be serial numbers on the shields, stamped on the cats, so make sure you send any and all pictures of those serial numbers so we can get you quoted as quickly as possible. So, catalytic converter prices, everyone knows that RR Cats is a subsidiary of Rockaway Recycling, so we're obviously going to be intertwined here. But what we've been doing is watching some of these average prices, and we've started to see some really nice price increases when it comes to catalytic converters. For about a week, we've seen consecutive prices of platinum, palladium, and rhodium at multi-month highs. Platinum prices have been over $900 an ounce. Palladium prices have been over $2,100 an ounce, and rhodium has stayed around $14,000 an ounce or more. So to give you an idea, rhodium had dipped down to $11,000, palladium had gone down to $1,700, and platinum had even dipped to around $775, $800. So these are really nice increases that we've seen, and that really follows suit with some of the copper prices, because we saw the copper trading market go down to $315, and now we're up to $364. So we are seeing a little life being kind of, breath, a little injected, a little life being a little into the markets, little breathing room here. Trying to get myself together here. We've seen a little a little area for growth. And here we are halfway into August, and I do think that we may see the resurgence of $4 copper come September. And I was reading one of the YouTube comments, and the guy called me out, and he's like, Tom, you said we were going to hit $5 per pound. It was going to stay there for the copper markets. Of course I did. And to my credit, it did hit $5, even though it was only for a matter of minutes. My prediction was true, but it wasn't true because it didn't stick for a long period of time. But we also didn't have a lot of these outside economic influences that we've seen. But cat prices have been strong. Our cats has been holding, we hold prices for 10 business days. So we really make it a really nice process. And we always tell people to check out some of the reviews that we've had from scrappers like yourselves, just to see how their experiences are directly through, Google, because why give you references when you can see what other people say on their own as reference points about the catalytic converter buying program? So we're going to have some exciting things coming out here in the next few weeks. We finally have our revamped website, our mobile website, getting refreshed here at iScrap, which will be able to push you more news. Please make sure when you're on your phone and you're fixing that location problem for your settings that you also opt to receive notifications from us, because we let you know when prices have been updated or the market is up, or when any other news story that we put together is out there, along with podcasts and blogs and everything else. So hopefully this gives you a different perspective. When we got this, kind of request asking to talk more to scrappers, I took this right to heart. I really went down and I spoke with a lot of our customers to learn what they liked about the scrapyard, and learning about that we're not the only option. They use multiple people. It kind of made me feel good, because that means that they found us, that we do something really, really good. And I don't think that every scrapyard can do every aspect great. So sometimes kind of hedging yourself and going into different places is a way to make yourself more money and really make sure that you're keeping different yards in check in your own mind. So the scrappers, this is Tom. Today's August 10th, 2022. Appreciate you tuning in, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else. Love to hear your ideas and your comments, good, bad, or indifferent. Until next week, I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want to and you haven't already, please subscribe below for more videos or become a Patreon supporter to get more information on scrap today.